everybody. Good morning. It is Monday, February 27th, and I'm here alone today. Jane is off gallivanting around somewhere. So today we're going to do the show ourselves. Had a special guest lined up, but doesn't look like that's going to work for them. So it's just me. So there you go. So what we're going to talk today is the strata life cycle. A lot of condos in this town, a lot of stratas in this town. And we're going to be talking about the life cycle from very beginning to very end of how that kind of looks and where you might be if you're a strata owner in that strata life cycle, how you might understand where it's at. So it's not going to be a long session today, but I just wanted to walk through that because some people are curious, and I've been hearing from a lot of people who are in older buildings and they're looking at special assessments. And there's lots to consider when it comes to the future of that building, and at what point do you pull the plug and maybe actually even sell to developer if the property is maybe ripe for upzoning for higher density in future. So let's just talk that through. Today, first though, we're going to talk about the stats. So let's go into that. So what happened in the last week? We had, let's start on the left column. Left side here, we've got the stats from the Victoria Real Estate Board for the month of February 2023 and the month of February 2022. So far, and we are the 27th, so we'll be doing our month-end wrap-up next week, but this is essentially almost a month-end wrap-up because we happen to fall at the end of the month. So February 2023, we've had 419 unconditional sales. So we have one more day to add to that, but it's pretty much, this is the numbers we're going to see pretty close. 742 listings came on the market, and we have 1,797 active listings currently. Whereas last year, 719 unconditional sales for the month of February in 2022, 932 new listings, and so a little bit higher, and 849 active listings. So as we've been saying repeatedly, the inventory last year was very, very low, and it's been building up. It's still a low inventory level historically, but almost double what it was last year. Now that was for the month of February. Let's look at the last week and what happened in the last week, and that's in the right-hand side here. So we had 346 new listings come live. Actually, let's talk about that. 346 listings went live in the last week, where we had 742 for the full month. So you can see here that even in the last week, we've had an acceleration in the number of listings that come online. We would be expecting to see, as we go into the spring, more and more inventory coming online, and this is in line with that. So 238 properties went pending. So you can see out of 346 listings, we didn't sell 238 of those particular listings, but from the pool of available inventory, 238 sales. And that's not a bad ratio for listings to sales. We don't expect everything to sell. Not everybody is realistic when they list their home for sale and price. It could be priced optimistically, or it could be, just not a very saleable property. But we do expect to see, this is pretty standard ratio. 128 price decreases. So we are finding that people are becoming more realistic with their pricing as well. Price increases we've talked about before many, many times. Again, sometimes people put them up wrong, or they just do something to maybe tweak the price, but it's usually a realtor error. when we see a price increase, they're just correcting. 5 properties came back on market from being off market. 193 properties sold. That's just closings, but 60 expired. So that's one to talk about. Expired and withdrawn listings. Between the two of those, 60 expired, 10 withdrawn. 70 properties came off, while 346 came on. And that speaks to that difference between the new listings, the pending sales, and when you add the pending sales with that expireds and withdrawns, you can add up to a pretty equal come and go for properties. Okay, so that's the stats. Don't need to talk too long about that. We're going to talk about stratas, the life cycle of a strata building. And this is something we don't often talk to our clients about. It's not something that's really top of mind, but it is something to consider. Everything has a lifespan, and even if you're buying into a newer building, you want to consider what the future of that building could hold. And just, I've been joking on social media lately because I'm starting to get um, the benefit of being, what's it called? Well, anyway, I went to the pool the other day and they gave me the seniors rate, 53, 52, and seniors rate is 60. So it's just kind of funny. But I mean, we're getting to that point where we start to think about uh, age. And you should think about that with your strata building too. So let's start with go. Go time for a strata building is before it even exists. It's just a twinkle in the developer's eye, and the developer is looking to build something that they can sell out. So they're going to find a land assembly or assemble some lands together, or find some land available to purchase, and make an offer. Go through a due diligence. Let's go forward here. Land assembly and land purchase. We're going to skip through some of these pretty quickly. And of course, there is availability for chat and comments. So if anybody has comments they want to add to or has questions, please do at any time. Without having the benefit of someone to chat with here, I'm just going to be cycling through it pretty fast. But land assembly or land purchase, they're going to be going out and trying to find land that's available at a reasonable price that they can do the math and find they can make a profit on. And after they've found that land, they will put in an offer and usually include conditions for due diligence phase, where they will start to do research to say, how many units can I put on this land? What does the zoning allow for this land? What's the topography? What are the services available? What's the market for this? And if all looks good, they will probably remove conditions or continue on with maybe signing off on some of the due diligence, but continue on. For example, some of the due diligence could include a rezoning of the property to bring it into a higher density. That's very common when you're buying land and you want to do some development on it. You want to talk to the neighbors, you want to talk to the municipality and get it rezoned to higher density so you can, as a developer, profit from that. Once they have gone forward, removed their conditions, and committed to purchasing that property, they will plan it out, and at some point they will be registering a strata plan on the title on the property at the land title office, and that's essentially a framework of what is going to be built on that property. The strata plan should outline what the different units are, where they are, what size they are, what the common property is, and so forth. So that's the strata plan. From there, they will put together actually the marketing pieces, all the legal pieces, a developer's disclosure statement. The developer's disclosure statement is really a proposal to buyers as to what they're going to buy, what they're going to be selling, and they can't market their property until they've actually registered a developer's disclosure statement. And because it's at this point, it's just a piece of land, they haven't broken ground yet. There's nothing really to see for a buyer. So the developer's disclosure statement is essentially the promise of what's going to be there at the end of the day. And so it's going to include often more than just strata plan and things on title, but it will also include the design, the colors, the quality materials. It's essentially a lot. It's a very large document, and once it's registered, it can be used for marketing purposes and for a buyer to rely on as they go to buy a home that they've never seen before, because it's just, again, an idea at this point. So this allows the developer to go into the marketing and pre-sales area, and so they're going to be using that developer's disclosure statement along with websites and marketing materials. But from the buyer's perspective, really want to look again at that developer's disclosure statement, because that is what you're going to be buying. It doesn't mean they can't change what they're building. They can register a new developer's disclosure statement or amend it, that is. But if it's a really material change, you may have a chance to move away from or get out of that. But oftentimes they're not material changes, but there are small changes that have to do with some of the realities of building, where they discover something that they were trying to do couldn't be done, or there's just some small changes. But again, the developer's disclosure statement is what you're relying on. They're going to start building. They're still going to be marketing the home, the strata building. Let's use an example of a 4-story frame 4 or 5 story frame building in the West Shore. They're going to break ground, start construction. They still are marketing it. They're still considered pre-sales because they don't have a finished product. You might start to see more and more of the product frame up and finish, but it's still in the pre-sale kind of category. Once they've completed it, the framework and everything, they're going to be at that point applying for occupancy to the municipality and allowed to begin to allow people into the homes. So all those people who had bought the pre-sales maybe 2 or 3 years earlier are going to start moving into the building and take occupancy. And at that point, you're also going to find the strata council is going to form, and they're going to start to have meetings, and they're going to start to have to follow the Strata Property Act in terms of how they care for, maintain, and run that building. There's also a warranty period at that point. So after the first sale is conveyed, warranty begins, and you're going to have a 1, 2, 5, 10 warranties. Different layers to that warranty depending on how many years along it's gone. After 10 years, it's really just warranty on the building structure. So the warranty itself is more, there's much more coverage in the first 1 or 2 years, really. That being said, you want to start putting money aside. And this is the thing with strata. And like, I like to use the analogy of a car. If you buy a new car and you drive it off the lot immediately, it's going to start to have wear and tear. And you get with that car a plan for its upkeep and maintenance. So there's going to be a drivetrain, tires, brakes, these things you have to look at over time. And some people just drive their car, and when something's needed, they pay for the new tires, they pay for the new brakes. Other people put money aside for those upcoming problems. So that's what a depreciation report is. It's really a report on the upcoming potential costs of a building. So they will allocate and say, just like with a car, they'll say, we expect your transmission is going to be required to be will last for 150,000 kilometers or whatever it is. They're going to say, your windows will probably last for 25, 40, 30, 40 years. Your roof will last for 25 years. You're going to need to do elevator maintenance every 10 years or every year or whatever it is. But, replace the elevator perhaps in 25 or 30 years. And these things are things you should be putting money aside for. And if you're not, that's where you start seeing some special assessments. So in terms of the life cycle of a building, at the very beginning, it's clean, it's new, it's under warranty, and people are just sort of riding it out and oftentimes not considering the future of that building. But they do want to think about the care and maintenance and future life of that building. Towards the end of its life cycle, as they get into more the maintenance phase, the warranty is expired. They're starting to find the carpets are getting old, the roof needs replacing, maybe the balconies are having problems. At some point, just like an old car, you're going to consider maybe it's time to get a new car, or do I keep putting money into this old vehicle? And most people don't want to put a lot of money into an old car and sort of keep it as a hot rod kind of classic vehicle. So they will put less and less into it over time. And you find also the population of ownership as these properties convey to new owners over time. For example, let's look at a building that was built in the 70s. It's probably not going to sell to people who are looking and really appreciating, having all the new and can afford all of the new amenities in a newer construction home. So it's usually someone buying on a budget, and they don't have the extra funds to put money into all of the care and maintenance that's required for a building either. So kind of just riding it out, and they're buying to ride it out. So in that maintenance phase, and I'd say that's probably anywhere from 25, 30 plus years old, you're starting to get into a lot. I mean, even before that, you can be finding problems with buildings, and that's partly to do with construction. It's partly to do with maintenance. But once you're starting to get to the really old buildings, you're going to start getting engineers' reports to see if there's been water ingress. If this building is, once it reaches a point where the costs are outweighing the benefits, you're seeing a lot more requirements on special assessments. So, for example, there are buildings in town that require $100,000 in per unit in additional work. That makes it really hard for an owner to really justify continuing on putting money into that building unless it's if it looks like that building is not going to be lasting. So it's like an old car that you've got in a fender bender. Is it worth repairing? Is it going to be written off? Do you move on? So at some point, that building might be end of life. We don't see it too often in Victoria because people are riding them out further. And unfortunately or fortunately, Victoria hasn't had the same growth that Vancouver has, but we're starting to see a lot more buildings hitting end of life in Vancouver are going through what's called a strata windup. And that strata windup is where the strata owners, requires a 3/4 vote to actually, it requires a unanimous vote, I believe, to wind up a strata. 3/4 vote if you want to, if you're, yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I've forgotten. But I think it's a unanimous vote for winding up a strata. And if you're going to wind up the strata, it means everybody has to agree to wind it up, and then they're going to take that strata, which is a whole complex of different uh, titles, and turn it back into one original title, and then be able to sell that title to a developer. And then we end up backing up to the very beginning at go. So the life cycle of a building is such that when you're buying a strata, you really want to consider where is it in the life cycle, because although we're not seeing a lot of end of life yet, there's a lot of buildings that are, if the zoning would allow for the higher density as the city starts to see and consider the missing middle and more density in homes, we may see more value in those older buildings, and we may see some more development in those cases. But overall, just main takeaway here is everything has a lifespan, and if you are looking to buy a strata, consider where it is in the lifespan. Consider just like buying a new car, people buy a new car for less maintenance and easier to care for and less headaches. They buy an old car because it's cheaper, but they know they're going to have to maintain it and put more care and attention into it. And that's the same thing with strata. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. Sorry, a little long-winded, and really looking forward to seeing everybody next week. Thanks so much, and have a great day.